right, good morning.
Good morning.
Get that cool video and then I walk up here. Sorry. Can you tell what the sermon series is going to be? One another, yes, on the stage here. Biggest day. Thank you, Brett. Brett Fairbanks, is he here? I don't see him. Brett put in the work and put that together for us, and there it is. It's a constant visual reminder over the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks roughly, because Thanksgiving is in there, where we talk about one another's. Today, looking at love one another. You know, there was a young man who was visiting the zoo, and it was a small zoo, and in that zoo, there was a particular cage that had the lion and a monkey in the same cage. And he thought that was pretty cool, that they're actually there. And so he asked the zookeeper, hey, how do they get along with one another? The zookeeper said, well, they get along just fine until the lion starts acting like a lion, then we need new monkeys. Pretty clear, right? I mean, why would they need new monkeys if, of course, when the lion starts acting like a lion, everything's okay as long as you're getting along together. But when that lion comes out, suddenly we need new monkeys. You know, as long as the lion comes out, we're always going to need new monkeys. Hold that thought for just a moment. James 2:8 says, if you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. 1 John 3:11 says, this is the message you heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Romans 13:8, let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another, for he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. 1 Peter 1:22, now that you have purified yourselves by observing the truth so that you have sincere love for your brothers, love one another deeply from the heart. And John 15, verses 9 through 12, Jesus says this, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Continue in my love. If you keep my commands, you shall abide in my love. Even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Now, anybody sensing a pattern there whatsoever? There's just a constant pattern of love, loving one another, and you know, it's a big deal. God makes it very clear. Now, if you go through the Bible, cover to cover, I've had people say they go through the Bible, and through the Old Testament, they don't see love. They don't see God's love, they just see wrath, it's mean, vengeful, brutal God. And they tell me that the Bible is the bloodiest book they've ever read. Well, I say, yeah. It's filled with blood covenants as well. So there's some good there. But through the entire Bible, cover to cover, there is this story of God's love throughout for his people. And this theme of love and love one another is huge. God wants us to love one another. Now, the word one another in English, of course, is 2 words. We see it here. But in the Greek, it's only 1 word. And that 1 word for love that is one another, that 1 word for one another is found in 100 scriptures. Actually, it's found 100 times, in 94 scriptures. That's a pretty big deal. There's a lot of times where that concept of love one another is mentioned. And so why would God say it over and over again? Why not just say it once? Here you go. Love one another, guys. Okay, have a good day. And then leave us with that. Well, you know why? It's because we need it. We need to hear it over and over and over again. And some of you over and over again some more. And like me, again and again and again. We need to hear it. It needs to be constantly repeated because let's face it, at its deepest level, we don't do such a good job at loving one another. I mean, there's an aspect of, I talked about in Sunday school, there's that self in there, right? As Scott always says, if we can just get past self, we'd be doing great. Well, we have that selfishness that's in there. Now, to a certain degree, it's okay because we have to take care of ourselves, obviously. We can't help someone else if we don't help ourselves in the first place. Think about an airplane. Very good example. If your mask drops down, you can't help the person next to you put theirs on. You have to put yours on first. And I don't know how to do that because my hands would be like this. I'd be like, put mine on, put mine on. No, it's your job, put mine on. Your job is to put mine on. So I'd probably be like that. And, okay, there's some truth to that. I kind of freak out when I fly in airplanes. But still, it's that concept of loving one another. It's that selfishness that we need to get past, because at its root, it's tough for us to love one another because of that. You know, I think about the cat. The mindset of a cat. Now, if you love cats, forgive me on this. We had a cat. I love cats, okay? I'm not trying to trash talk cats here, but just go with me on this. It makes a point, okay? On the first day of creation, God made the cat. On the second day, God created man to serve the cat. On the third day, God created all animals of the earth to serve as potential food for the cat. The fourth day, God created man's work. That is, work, labor, so that man could toil and work for the cats. Actually, the second day, God created man so that he could serve the cat. I kind of skipped over that one, sorry. On the fifth day, God created the sparkly ball, so the cat could or could not play with it if he wanted to. The sixth day, God created veterinary science to keep the cat healthy. And on the seventh day, God wanted to rest, but he had to move out the litter box. Now, for those of you who love cats, I'm sorry. But there's a good point there. We tend to have that kind of a mindset, that mentality that it's all about us, and that the world revolves around us. And when it doesn't, there's a problem. Why? Because we believe that it revolves around us. We don't love one another. We don't love anybody except self. And you know, the real problem is, we used to be like that. That's what Paul says. Paul goes on in Colossians 3 to say a whole lot of things that we used to be. In Colossians 3:7, he says, you used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived. That's how we used to be. We used to have anger and malice and slander and rage and filthy language and selfishness. That's supposed to be the old way, isn't it? The problem is, it's not so much the old way, it's still kind of where we're at in so many ways, seeking to take care of self. And when that happens, we become like that little 8-year-old girl that I heard about, who had an argument with her sister all day long. Little 6-year-old girl, 8-year-old girl arguing all day. And at the end of the night, when they got ready for bed, that little 8-year-old girl, she was down on the floor on her knees, and she was getting ready to pray and saying her prayers, and she said, God, please bless Mommy and Daddy and our cat and our dog. She paused. Mom said, are you forgetting someone? And she looked across the bed at her little sister, and she glared at her. She said, oh yeah, God bless my ex-sister. That's what happens when we forget to love one another. Over and over and over again, God makes it clear we are to love one another. You know, there's no commandment anywhere in the Bible that commands that you are to receive love. But we are commanded to love others, to commanded to love one another. You know, I think about the woman who had an illness, and she died. And you know how this goes? She went to heaven, and she's standing there in the pearly gates. Of course, we know this is from the internet, so you know it's true, okay? Everything on the internet is true. And so St. Peter's standing there at the gate, and he says, all you need to do is spell a word. Spell one word correctly, and you're in. She says, all right, what word? It says, spell love. All right. So she says, L-O-V-E. And she's in. And a couple weeks go by, and she's there with her family and friends, and she's having a wonderful time fellowshipping and loving with them. And then one day, Peter says, I need you to watch the gate for me, because I got to go do something. Only about 3 minutes. Should be pretty calm. So she's standing there, and her husband is suddenly there. She says, wow, how have you been? He says, well, actually, she's pretty good. You know that young nurse that was helping you when you were there in the hospital? I married her. And a couple of days after that week, I won the lottery, which was really cool. And you know the house you loved so much? I hated that thing. I tore it down, built a mansion right there. Really, really amazing. But we don't spend much time there because we've been traveling the world. In fact, I got hurt. I think that was jet skiing, I'm not sure. But That's why I'm here. Apparently I died. So what do I need to do to get in? She said, you need to spell a word. It's like, okay, what word? She said, Czechoslovakia. When we forget to love one another, that's how it can be. We want to lash out at those around us. And even those who seem to love us, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they seem to love us or if they outright make it clear they don't love us. Our command is to love one another. It's to go beyond. You know, I think about, I'm sure it's rooted way back, okay? And so, you know, if you sat in with counseling sessions for me and all, I've always tried to take you back somewhere to a beginning, somewhere. Or if you're explaining something, my question is always, well, where did that begin? Where was the change? What took place? What was that defining line? Because sometimes people don't know it until they say it, and then they realize, that's what changed. And so I try to take it back, and I can see how some of this, I can see how most, if not all of this, could be right from the very onset of our upbringing. You know, little kids. You watch little kids when they play together. Sometimes they play and they share so beautifully. Other times they beat each other with their toys. Because it's my toy. And it's like they'll cry and they'll take the toy and they won't even play with it. They just want to have the toy. You know? And that just kind of progresses through their life. And then when they become Christians, that is a whole life of a nature spent in one way. And now they have to do a complete 180 and reverse that. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. It is a lifelong process to become Christ-like. And so, because of that, even in the church, we kind of encourage that behavior. Just bear with me. Here's where I'm going with this, okay? Someone comes up and says they want to be baptized into Christ. Okay, so let's look at the process, all right? They say a few words, they give the good confession, all right? But after that, we immerse them, we hug them, we love them. They're the center of attention, at least for that day, maybe the next couple of weeks, if it's a small enough church, for the next couple of months. They're the center of attention. We counsel them, we teach them, we hold their hand. Everything is given. We just give. And they're new in that relationship with Christ, and they're receiving, which isn't a bad thing, so don't get me wrong. But I think what we do is we start to get the mindset that that's how it's supposed to be. Right? And we walk in, and it's my right to be loved. And when they come into the church, and they're expecting it, and suddenly the honeymoon is over. And they're not feeling that love. They're not feeling appreciated. They're feeling now like they're just being taken for granted. What do? Well, they've got that selfish there, that self, right? Again, we talk about, Scott's not in sin. We got that. Get rid of self. Jesus knew it. He said, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself. Take up his cross and follow me. It is tough to deny self. But we have to do it. We have to get past it in order to love one another. Because what happens is we feel like it's our right to be loved. And then when we don't feel it, we get mad. And we go somewhere else. Now, in 12 years of ministry, I want to tell you, we've seen it here at PBCC. But let me tell you, in 12 years of ministry, I've seen it all over the East Coast. Okay? It happens. This is not unique for us. This is not unique for any church anywhere. Okay? I have professors who, for 45 years, said, hey, I've seen it happen, Ray. I've seen it happen more times than I would care to admit. I've talked to preachers who retired after 80 years of preaching. Like, what, they started when they were 2? I mean, seriously, 80 years of preaching. There's one guy, and he said he's seen it his whole entire life. They get upset. They think they deserve it. They go somewhere else. You know, they might get it for a little while because they're new somewhere else, but when that, again, the honeymoon wears off, it's back to square one. And then they're not happy, and they want to go somewhere else, and they consistently are just going to move on and on because they're not following the commandment to love one another. And honestly, it comes down to their relationship with God. And some of you might not want to hear that, but we got to call it what it is. We got to say what's true. That's it on on the dot. All right, 1 John 4:16 and 17 says this, God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. Okay? So here's the point to all of that. There are going to be moments when you, are not going to feel loved and appreciated. There are going to be moments when you are going to feel like you are just being taken advantage of and no one really, really cares for you. But your requirement is to love one another. Because that's what Jesus said. He said, a new commandment I give you. Right? John 13, a new commandment I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you are to love one another in this world. Right? He's saying this world, all the people, everyone on this planet, they will know, all men will know you are my disciples if you love one another. So it's very clear. Love one another is a very big deal with God. And that means love one another even if we know we're not going to be loved back. I heard a story about a little boy named Chad. He was in the 4th grade, and every day when he would come home from school, his mom would watch out the window, and she'd see the group of kids coming down the sidewalk, and there's just always this one group, and they're hugging at each other, and they're laughing and having a good old time, and about 20 paces behind them is Chad, walking along all by himself, all alone. It was like that every day. She would watch him get on the bus sometimes, and he'd sit down, and kids wouldn't talk to him. She would visit sometimes in the classroom and see that even in group settings, he was part of the group, yes, but nobody really interacted with him. They kind of ignored him. And so he came home one day and he said, Mom, I want to make some Valentine's Day cards for my whole class. And there were 34 students, plus himself, and he wanted to make one for the teacher, so 35. And Mom just knows this isn't a good idea. She sees how the kids treat him. She doesn't want him to go through this heartache, putting all this time and effort and this work into making all of these cards and bringing them into the class and then not receive a single one. She's sure of it. He's not going to receive a single card from anyone else. But she agrees. She goes out, she buys construction paper, scissors, and some crayons, and he starts working and he's excited about it for days and days. He's working and putting in the time and drawing the pictures, and he's showing Mom and making all the comments, and he's so excited. And that day arrives, and he loads up his bag, and he goes to school. Mom knows it's going to be rough. She knows it's going to be a tough day for him. So she spends the whole day baking cookies, chocolate chip cookies. And she knows when he gets home, a nice plate of chocolate chip cookies and a tall glass of cold milk is going to hit the spot. It's going to be nice. It won't solve everything, but it'll help. And so she's watching out the window, and here come the kids. And sure enough, same as always, you got this group of kids, and they're laughing, and then about 20 feet behind or so is Chad walking along all by himself. He's got his head down. And she just knows. She knows it's not good. He keeps his head down the whole way, comes up the sidewalk even, and up into the house, and she says, "How was your day, sweetheart?" And he doesn't even say anything other than, "Not a single one." That's what he says. And her heart sinks. She knows, he spent all this time, he put all that work into those cards, and he gave them out, and he didn't get a single card in return. And before she can say anything, she looks at him, and he says again, "Not a single one. Mom, I didn't forget a single one." Everybody in class got a card. That's the kind of heart that we are to have. That heart that goes beyond ourselves, beyond what we think about others, and it goes into what the Scriptures say, and we love one another. 100%. No holds barred. That's what Jesus says. He says, do it. So we do. So let me ask you this morning, how do you love? Are you like that lion? And that lion comes out. When that lion comes out, we need new monkeys all over the place. Some of you, you can relate to that. You are monkeys. You act like monkeys. Are you like that lion? That lion comes out and you just rip and tear at people. You don't love one another. You shred them. You're like that little girl who says, has that bitterness in her heart, not love for her sister. How about that woman? Who definitely didn't love. Are you like Chad? He goes out of his way, denies himself, and he loves others because that's what we are commanded to do. Because we are commanded, guys, to love one another. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this morning. I thank you for the